I'm sure there is some sort of a sigh of relief from you today, from the industry today. This is good news, but it's short-term news.
Yeah, look, thanks for having me on, Morella. To be clear, we've been saying for the longest time, we don't want a carve-out. We're not looking for a carve-out. What he did on tariffs to his own industry was going to lead to a shutdown within a week. Here we are on the second day, and he's looking for an off-ramp. And he took the advice of the Detroit 3 CEOs who've been very active on this. They met him him in his office last Thursday, yesterday, and again today to say, look, we don't want to fight this out in public. Well, the industry's going to shut down. And if you're saying you want to do this for us, what you can do for us is go back to the thing that you did for us. You caused for the NAFTA to be renegotiated as the USMCA. And now, 6 years later, 25% more of the content we have is from the US. Take that win. If you don't, we're going to have a crisis next week where hundreds of thousands of auto workers are going to be home wondering not about the price of eggs, but how are we going to buy those eggs? He spoke to the Prime Minister this morning, and I appreciate that the Prime Minister and his team were disciplined. They didn't say, hey, by the way, we'll step down and we'll allow you to step back on a few places and pick and scratch. Canada doesn't want these things. If you're going to make a decision to find an off-ramp, find it on your own, and here we are.
Okay, I guess my question is that why bother to introduce them in the first place? Because that has everybody pushing the panic button. Is it really a win for Donald Trump? And it's more of a political question, but is it more of a win for Donald Trump to say he has imposed them only to withdraw them a day later?
It's the nonsensical nature of the way this administration is handling the American economy. Let's put Canada and Mexico aside. He's invoking tariffs on inputs into that economy because he thinks that what will happen is people will reinvest. Well, in the auto business, these are 10, 20-year investments. People don't reinvest based on the whim of the President of the United States. He's destabilizing the market in the U.S. People are lower disposable income. The cost of money is going to go up. Nobody's looking to invest. Never mind what he said yesterday about, we've got trillions of dollars of announced investments and we're going to go for it. It's actually not happening. Now, we have to find a way to give him his wins because the only people who are going to deliver us from Donald Trump will be American stakeholders, and they haven't done that part yet. This was a surprise today. It is a bit of a sigh, but it also lacks clarity. The announcement went out through his press secretary who said, I talked to the D3 and any company that is in the USMCA can sell cars for the next 30 days without a tariff. Well, does that mean Toyota and Honda and Hyundai and BMW and everybody else? And what about parts? The only way to be USMCA compliant is to do an audit of where your parts come from, and those parts have to meet a compliance check. And so I guess parts are included. But like everything else with this administration, you got to wait for the paperwork because they make it up on the fly.
Yeah. One of the concerns raised, I believe it was Commerce Secretary talking about it, is that their agreement under the North American trade deal that there are workarounds and people are sort of interpreting the way how much American content is put into the car. Are there workarounds being used that need to be looked at? Do you think that that is something that is for them a legitimate beef?
It's not a legitimate beef with Canada. That part I know for sure. We work in math and science. Is this component compliant? If it is, you get that check mark. And if you get that check mark, you can go into a car to get its own check mark. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Here, about 55% of the raw materials that go into Canadian parts production and vehicle production comes from Pennsylvania and Texas, and every place in between. And about 50% of the parts that make up the cars here come from the U.S. What he's talking about, I think, is there's some production in Mexico that is not USMCA compliant, but those are car companies that are not pretending to be. And so they're choosing to pay a 2.5% most favored nation status tariff. Maybe this 25% will change those automakers' minds in that region. But as with everything else with this administration, and even with Secretary Lutnick, they don't actually give you the detail. They give you the feeling. And I think people maybe consumers purchase with feelings, but companies can't make investments based on your feelings. And so, again, we've encouraged them today, show the paperwork. Until you show the paperwork, we're still in a crisis.
I was going to ask you, there is a 1-month reprieve, but they're already talking about retaliatory tariffs on April 2nd. It's not really clear, as you say, how that's defined, what will fall under that umbrella. So how do you feel about the 1 month? Is it your gut feeling that this will be extended, like it'll continue for the auto sector to move forward without being tariffed?
No, I've been saying for a few months now, he's not going to change and he's not going away. We need to adapt to the fact that you can't trust an agreement that you make with him, but you certainly shouldn't ever relax anymore. He's talking about his January 20th America First trade policy executive order that says reports are coming on April 1st. He turned it into April the 2nd because I think he forgot the date when he was asked. And they've been clear that that's separate from USMCA review and negotiations. Look, no one should take any comfort, and certainly the industry isn't taking any comfort from this. To some degree, it probably would have been better if we went off the cliff and that the industry shut down so that they understand what exactly they're playing with. And they're not playing with Ontario. They couldn't care less about who makes cars in Woodstock and who's making parts down in Windsor. But they would absolutely know just how dumb this is if Huntsville, Alabama had thousands of auto workers at home, or Lexington, Kentucky, or El Paso, Texas. And that's where they were going. They saw that. The CEOs from the D3 presumably walked them through that. And they just negotiated with themselves today. They didn't, this isn't, Canada didn't win a reprieve. Mexico didn't win a reprieve. This is them learning as they go.
Got it.